Hey, Noctum. It is June 12th, 2025. It's about a day and a half after the new moon, which should be rising shortly. It's now 9:41. It'll be rising to the south and the east. It shouldn't be is too much of a problem this evening since we're going after the rounders, the circumpolar studies of the evening, and most of them will be galaxies. There's one exception. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get them all done, each within a minute. Right now we're looking at, of course, the Ring Nebula, and I thought I'd step through the various zoom functions as we do this. We are using ASI Studio, and we're using the image stacking function. There's still blue in the sky. I wouldn't expect it to get dark until after 10 o'clock this evening, but let's have a look as we step through here. This, of course, is our roughly 50x view, and as we step through, we'll get to 100%, which should be about 100x, and at 100%. And as I continue to step through, we should get up to about the level that we would see the Ring Nebula if we were using the 150 AD. I have discovered it's very easy to center studies. Just clicking and dragging on the field instead of using the slide bars. I can also, of course, try to optimize the view by playing with histogram. What I'll try to optimize towards view right now is so we can see the central star. I did see it a little earlier, but the sky conditions are changing. I believe it may be right about there, but there's so much pixelation on the screen. We're going to be covering this evening, hopefully in 1 minute segments. I'm trying to get my light pen to work. I haven't played with it yet. There we go. We're going to be covering, last time we almost got to NGC3500. At which point, with NGC3500, we actually ended on NGC 3499, and that will be a sampler study this evening as soon as it gets a little darker. Like I said, I do believe the central star is revealing itself there in the annularity. That one's about 13.1 magnitude, and that's enough of an introduction for tonight. I'm looking forward to this. It's been quite a while, over 10 days or so between weather and the moon. It has delayed my continuation of this series, but let's back out once again because the aesthetic view was so very nice at about 100% or about 100x. Okay, what you're seeing there is Beta Ursa Majoris, which is a fairly bright star, magnitude 2.4, and about 15 arc minutes to the southeast, which is right about here because I've already pre-positioned it. Is the final study of our previous rounder series. This is NGC 3499. It's at 11 hours, 3 minutes, 11 seconds, plus 56 degrees, 13 minutes, and 18 seconds in Ursa Majoris. It has progressed from culmination, I would say, by about 25 degrees. The galaxy is magnitude 13.6, and I just lost to the wind my shield against the skylight. Anyway, magnitude 13.6, sub 1 arc minutes in size, 0.8 by 0.7, with an average surface brightness of 12.9, through a 17.5 inch scope. In March of 1988, Steve Gottlieb described it as fairly faint, very small, round, bright core, stellar nucleus, and of course located about 14.8 arc minutes southeast of Beta Ursa Majoris, and that is our first study of the evening, recapitulating the previous Rounders series. Here we should be seeing NGC 3500, the first in the series tonight, which should run through NGC 3594. Only one of which won't be a galaxy, and one of which will be a Messier. NGC 3500 is a visual magnitude 13.8, 1.3 by 0.6 arc minutes, so it's 2-to-1 aspect ratio oblate galaxy with an average surface brightness pretty close to its visual of 13.4 and a position angle of 45 degrees, which means it should basically have an orientation in this direction, this being north, this being east, west, and south. Through a 24-inch telescope done in 2014, at 280x, Steve said appeared faint or fairly faint, fairly small, elongated 2-to-1, and it included NGC3465 in the previous Rounders series, 9 arc minutes to the west, and NGC3523, 7 arc minutes to the southeast. So here's our west, here's our south, and here's our east. So there do seem to be a number of galaxies here. He said, he goes on to say, the galaxies, I'm hoping he'll say, there's some stars, second of 3 in the KTG34 triplet with NGC 3465 and 3523. This galaxy's redshift base distance is 150 million light years, while the other two are at twice that distance, 325 million light years. So they are not together. I'm seeing some luminosity on the screen here. I don't want to spend a lot of time on histograms, but if this had been the galaxy, I'm sure he would have mentioned these two 12th magnitude stars here. So we may have to search around a little bit to make this galaxy out. Here's something that looks like it has a 2-to-1 aspect ratio. And so therefore I would assume, at least probability-wise, that NGC 3500 is right here. Our next study is NGC 3516 at 11 hours, 6 minutes, 47.5 seconds, plus 72 degrees, 34 and 7 arc seconds. Ursa Majoris. It's magnitude 11.7, 1.7 by 1.3, so relatively oblate, face on, maybe football shape, with a surface brightness of 12.5 and a position angle of 45 degrees. That may be significant because there are several faint fuzzies here. However, I do believe this to be our study right here. All right, so however it says 3516, if there's a magnitude 14 star, 1.2 arc minutes to the south and the east. Well, this is the south and this is the east. Presumably this is our star at magnitude 14. So, but I can't understand why this brighter star wouldn't have been mentioned in Steve's description. But we'll stay with that because it's obviously a galaxy. And we're not getting the best views yet because the sky dark hasn't quite descended. But that will be our candidate for NGC 3516 this evening. Well, I've centered up on what I think is probably NGC 3517. It's located in Ursa Majoris at 11 hours, 5 minutes, 36.8, plus 56 degrees, 31 minutes, and 30 seconds. Well south of our last study, 3516. It's got a visual magnitude of 13.0, and its size is just about what you would expect, 1.0 by 0.9 arc minutes, with an average surface brightness of 12.5 and a position angle of 91 degrees. So this one should be more or less oriented in this direction. Here's my candidate for this. Through a 17.5-inch scope in 1988, Steve describes it as fairly faint, fairly small, round with diffuse edges and a broad concentration. Yeah, there isn't much of a sense of condensation. It kind of just spreads out into an aura with a rather even declivity of brightness as it extends itself outward. Our next study is another galaxy, this one in Draco, NGC 3523. Visual magnitude 12.9. It's at 11 hours, 3 minutes, 6.3 seconds, and a fairly far north, 90 plus 75 degrees, 6 minutes, 57 seconds. With an average surface brightness of 13.3 and a face-on presentation of 1.3 by 1.3 arc minutes. I've centered up what I consider to be a candidate right about there. It's described through a 24-inch scope done in 2014. A 280x appeared fairly faint or moderately bright, moderately large, seems offset to the center within the halo. So the nucleus lies a little off angle. We are probably entering skydark now. It's about 10:03. We should get a better view of this than maybe we're getting. However, I'm picking up some diffuse light pollution, even though I've put up a bit of a screen to the street light. I'd like to be able to get a better view of this. I will sweep around JIC. There is a brighter galaxy here that looks like it is more likely to map up against Steve's 24-inch view. A third in the KTG34 triplet with NGC3500, 7 arc minutes to the north and the west. So there should be another galaxy about, well, there's several candidates for galaxies. But I do believe this is our study right here, NGC 3523. Okay, no guarantees on this one. For some reason, things are proving rather elusive tonight, maybe because we've progressed too far to the west. NGC 3530 is our current study. It's an Ursa Majoris at 11 hours, 8 minutes, 40.4 seconds, plus 57 degrees, 1348. Visual magnitude 13.8, 0.6 by 0.3 arc minutes with an average surface brightness of 11.7 and a position angle of 99 degrees. I'm wondering if it's this one. It does have a 2-to-1 aspect ratio. Okay, so this could quite possibly be this galaxy here. Position angle of 99 degrees. That's about correct because this would be 90. So there we go. So that's a pretty good map on that one. Through a 17.5-inch scope in 1988, fairly faint, very small, elongated east-west with a bright core, probably a stellar nucleus. Getting a little better view than that, despite the seeing conditions of the evening in the sky position. Okay, while our last galaxy, NGC 3530, was our smallest galaxy at 0.6 by 0.3 arc minutes, this is our faintest galaxy. However, it has a wonderful aspect ratio, so we have to look for it. Its NGC 3543 is in Ursa Majoris at 11 hours, 10 minutes, 56.5 seconds, plus 61 degrees, 20 minutes, and 49 seconds. Visual magnitude 14.2, 1.3 by 0.2 arc minutes, so that's like a 6-to-1 aspect ratio with average surface brightness of 12.5 and a position angle of 8 degrees. So we should be looking something pretty much left-right. Through a 17.5-inch scope in 1988, faint, moderately large, edge-on 5-to-1 north to south, a wide pair of magnitude 14 stars, 51 arc-second separation, lie between the two, lie 2 arc minutes to the northeast. Let's see if we can pick this galaxy out. Well, this is the northeast, and here's the 2 stars. This looks like we've got a nice edge-on galaxy, basically left-right. Let me go ahead and play just a little bit with the histogram settings and see if we can bring out a little bit more of this galaxy. And I would say it is right about there. We're seeing a bit of a core with extensions to the north primarily, with a weaker, shorter extension to the south. That's a fairly decent view of a magnitude 14.2 edge-on galaxy. Okay, we're now into part 2, and you're seeing a very spectacular edge-on galaxy. It looks like it has a bit of a stellar overlay to it near the core, and that star is brighter in the core, but this galaxy is well modeled with various H2 regions of luminosity. It is, in fact, NGC 3556. It's also known as a Messier 108. So here we have Messier 108 in Ursa Majoris at 11 hours, 11 minutes, 31.8 seconds, plus 55 degrees, 40 minutes, 14 seconds. We're seeing at a fairly low magnification of roughly 50x. Its visual magnitude is 10 with a large size 8.7 by 2.2, which is a 4:1 aspect ratio, average surface brightness of 13.1, about the total brightness of many of the galaxies we'll have viewed throughout the Rounder series, and it has a position angle of 80 degrees. I'm going to step in a little bit closer and center it up. As I do so, through an 18-inch scope in 2007, Steve describes it as very bright, very large, elongated 4:1 west-south-west-east-northeast, roughly 8 by 2 arc minutes. This striking galaxy has a very mottled, patchy appearance with the main body appearing twisted or distorted. All right, let's take a little bit more on that. Go up to 100% and center it in the field. A few brighter patches or knots are visible along the major axis with a prominent knot along the west side. The core region is streaked with dust. The brightest portion of the two extensions have slightly different orientations or central axes. There is some really pronounced streaking going on there. Let's push it up a little bit further. All right. The galaxy bulges out a bit on the east end, and the galaxy appears to bend a bit towards the north on the west, adding to the asymmetry. A couple of faint stars are superimposed on the eastern extension, and close to the center is a prominent magnitude 12.5 star, masquerading as a bright stellar nucleus. The Owl Nebula M97 lies 48 arc minutes southeast of this Messier galaxy, which I forget the name of. I believe it was 108. Let me confirm that. That is indeed NGC 3556 Messier 108, and I do believe it is worthy of further magnification. Look at all the texture in Messier 108. And with that, we'll move on to our next study. Once again, we've headed well north into Draco to NGC 3562 at 11 hours, 12 minutes, 58.7 seconds, plus 72 degrees, 52:45. Once again, and the Dragon. Visual magnitude 12.2 with a size of 1.7 by 1.3 arc minutes and a position angle, if you can make it out, of 165 degrees. Through a 17.5-inch scope in 1992, fairly faint, small, elongated east-west, gradually brighter halo, small, bright core. Yeah, you can determine the position angle on that one. NGC 3562. Well, Skydark has arrived, even though everything's progressed to the west. I think I finally managed to get rid of some of the extraneous luminosity, and we're getting a good view of the magnitude 13.54 NGC 3577 at 11 hours, 13 minutes, 44.9 seconds, plus 48 degrees, 16 minutes, and 22. Ursa Majoris, visual magnitude 13.4, face on 1.4 arc minutes in size and an average surface brightness slightly fainter at 14.0. Through a 17.5-inch scope in 1991, Steve says very faint, small, slightly elongated west-northwest, east-southeast. A magnitude 11.5 star is 30 arc seconds southeast of the outer halo and 1.2 arc minutes from the center. Forms a pair with NGC 3583, 5.2 arc minutes to the northeast. That stellar component doesn't seem to stack up. So we're probably looking at this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on that. This is a much brighter galaxy. I'll center up here. There does seem to be a bit of a star on this one. really pushing the magnification to 200%. This is probably our study right here. So once again, that would be NGC 3577, visual magnitude 13.4, face on 1.4 arc minutes with an average surface brightness of 14. And we should, and it says there's a star, 30 arc seconds. So yeah, it might very well be a star instead of a nucleus being present with NGC 3577. Well, that brighter galaxy with more definition in the field was actually NGC 3583. And Ursa Majoris also, 11 hours, 14 minutes, 10.8 seconds, plus 48 degrees, 19 minutes, 6 seconds. This is a visual magnitude 11.1 galaxy, 2.8 by 1.8 arc minutes. I don't think we need the pointer on that one. Surface brightness of 12.7 and a position angle of 125 degrees. This would be a nice 5-inch or 5 or 6-inch scope study to see if you can pick out. Should be quite doable. And through a 17.5-inch scope in 1991, fairly bright, small, elongated 3 to 2, west-northwest to east-southeast, 1.5 by 1 arc minutes visible. Bright core, oh yeah, stellar nucleus at moments, yeah, it could be considered a stellar nucleus, although it's a little bit resolved, but maybe that's the magnification. A magnitude 14 star is just off the south side, 1.5 arc minutes from center. I'm not really making out 1.5 arc minutes from center to the south, but I'm pretty sure this is the galaxy. Forms a pair with NGC 3577, which we've already previously just seen, 5.2 arc minutes to the south and the west. Well, here's the south and here's the west, and I do believe this is our study here, our pair. Well, let's do a little zoomage on this one. Most obvious study on the screen is located right there. As we zoom in, I'll center it up on the screen. Let's go to 100% like we normally do. Clearly a very slightly ovular, but mostly round nebulosity. Doesn't seem to have any core. In fact, it looks a little donut-like with a small faint star in its midst. I would say this is a brethren to something like the Ring Nebula, Messier 57. We are, of course, looking at a planetary nebula. This is Messier 97, NGC 3587. It's at 11 hours, 14 minutes, 47.7 seconds, plus 55 degrees, 1 minute, 8 seconds in Ursa Majoris. Its visual magnitude in total is brighter than anything we've observed this evening, including Messier 108 at 9.8 magnitudes. Size, not measured in arc minutes, but in arc seconds. 202 by 196, divide those numbers by 60, and you get something like 3 by 3 arc minutes in size. Through a 13.1-inch scope in 1984, the darker holes are visible where near the threshold, no central star seen at 166 to 220x. We do see the hole. We are seeing the central star. There is some brightening in this location here. I'm going to go ahead and push the magnification to 200% just for the heck of it. That does work quite nicely with the Owl Nebula. NGC 3587, also known as Messier 97, a comet that never managed to change relative position with the background sky. Sorry, Charles. Okay, I really had to play with the settings on the histogram for this one. We're looking at NGC 3589. It's at 11 hours, 15 minutes, 13.4 seconds, plus 60 degrees, 42 minutes, 2 seconds in Ursa Majoris. Visual magnitude is 13.8. It's 1.5 by 0.8 arc minutes. Its average surface brightness is 13.8 with a position angle of 48 degrees, and that PA does play out very nicely. The problem with this galaxy is it doesn't seem to have much of a core. It's through a 17.5-inch scope in 1988, faint, moderately large, oval, southwest and northeast, diffuse, located just west of the line connecting magnitude 7.4 SAO 15447, 4 arc minutes north-northeast, and magnitude 8.6 SAO 15449, 5 arc minutes to the southeast. So a couple of should lie between a couple of stars, and there is a bit of a line here, but these are brighter stars here. Well, we could also consider it there. But this is a very large diffuse galaxy, and I really did have to play with the histogram to pull it off. We're running really late into this rounder series, but we should be closing up soon. But I did want to capture a few other studies of interest, general interest, before we knocked off for the evening. Here we have the final of 14 studies in the Rounders series for this evening. This is NGC3594. It's at 11 hours, 16 minutes, 14 seconds, plus 55 degrees, 42 minutes, 15 seconds, and Ursa Majoris. Magnitude 13.7, pretty much face on, 1.3 by 1.2 arc minutes, and an average surface brightness of 14.1. Its position angle is said to be 10 degrees. I'm pretty much assuming that is our study. Through a 17.5-inch scope in 1988, faint, very small, round with a bright core. I would say that describes it pretty well, with some fainter possible galaxies in the region. All right, so that's the 14th study. And at this point, we are getting closer and closer to finding that almost 10% of all the studies in the NGC catalog lie within 45 degrees of the North Pole in the sky. So we'll continue to track that as we make progress. At this point, we are at 8.6% of all the studies are located there. And I thought this evening we'd have a look at a small Messier cluster, Messier 56, because we started with the Ring Nebula 57. I thought we might end with 56. One of the things I've always been impressed about Messier 56 is the beautiful star-studded region along the Milky Way that is its foreground. Here we're seeing the cluster at low magnification. I think I'm not going to play with the histogram settings at all. Let's push it up to 100x and get an idea. Now this is a cluster that can be, a few stars can be resolved through a 6-inch telescope. We're not getting the best of all views right here. I'm beginning to see the moon casting just a day or two full moon, casting its luminosity into that part of the sky. But I just love the stellar region of this beautiful, I think it's like a 40,000 light year distant cluster in the Cygnus spiral arm of the Milky Way. And with that, I shall say, carpe.